Soy yo, Vicky, otra vez. En el video de hoy voy a hablar de ser y estar. Yes, ser and estar, the thorn in everybody's side. The two verbs to be in Spanish. Now, I've already got several videos maybe on my channel about ser and estar, but they're quite old videos. So I thought I would do a new video about ser and estar, explaining the difference. Now, as far as my Break the Language Barrier books are concerned, every single level explains about ser and estar. It starts in level 1 when we're looking at the present tenses, and we do a lot of we learn ser, then we learn estar, then we compare them. And what tends to happen, I've noticed with my students, is by the end of level 1, people are more or less getting a little bit of a sense of when we use ser, when we use estar. Then when we go into level 2, Break the Language Barrier, and we start looking at past tenses, it seems to go a little bit out of the window. So that's why in every single level of my books, every new tense that we learn, every new past tense, future tense, subjunctive, imperative, because as you know, you can take Spanish as far as you want, so you can stay and just do the beginner's level and just get enough to sort of get by, or you can take it on and become much more proficient in Spanish. But ser and estar is a thorn in everyone's side. So the other thing I think is important to remember, it's not just you that has problems with ser and estar. Everybody has problems with ser and estar, because ser and estar, two verbs to be, doesn't exist in any other language. So it's not even just English speakers that have a problem with ser and estar. Whatever language is your maternal language, whatever nationality you are, when it comes time to learn Spanish, you're going to have problems with ser and estar. So you just have to accept it and not be hard on yourself. People get annoyed with themselves because they get a ser or estar wrong, but it's common, it's not just you, it really isn't, it's just the way it is. So, you're always going to get the odd thing wrong. The other thing is that if you're talking, don't overthink it. Just when you're speaking, as I say to all my students, when you're speaking, perfection is not important. Perfection is for practicing at home when you're doing exercises. When you're out and about in the world speaking Spanish, you will not be perfect. It's impossible. Impossible. It'd take years before you could become perfect, even if you ever do. It's not your natural language, so you're always going to make little mistakes here and there. But when you're speaking, what's important is communication. So don't be thinking, oh, is it ser, estar? Just say whatever comes into your mind, and if it's wrong, it's wrong. You'll get it right next time, so be kind to yourself. So, and just a word, if you haven't got any of the Break the Language Barrier books, there are 4 levels, and they're all available on Amazon, or available through me or through the website, but they're not essential to follow my videos. So if you're following a YouTube video, whatever it's about, even if it's itemized in the book, doesn't mean to say you can't still follow the video. But some people like to follow with the book as well, so just to let them know. Okay, so really what I'm going to explain today about the difference between ser and estar, it's in every book. So if you look in the index of whichever book you've got, be it level 1, 2, 3 or 4, whether it's the old version, the new version, there's explanations about ser and estar and practices with ser and estar in every book. So what I'm going to go through today is the mnemonic that I put together to try and help people understand when to use ser and when to use estar. So we look first at ser. Now, ser, we can think of the mnemonic kopringt with 3 P's. Kopringt. Because we can put together the letters when we use ser. So we're going to start with the C, obviously, which is colours. Now, it's also important to remember that these are natural colours that use ser. If it's an unnatural colour, you would use estar, because it's estar that we use for temporary states. So, if it's an accepted colour, like the sky is blue, the banana is yellow, the car is red, it will always be ser. When it would be estar is if the sky is grey, or the banana is black, or the banana is green. So then it would be estar. So we could add their natural colours. Okay, then origin for the O. Origin, where we come from, or where things come from. So it's not only for people. So I might say, soy de Manchester. I am from Manchester. That's my origin. But also, if it was an object, if I was saying, este vestido es de, and I can't remember where I got it from. I think it was C and A. C-E-A. So, yeah, so it's origin, where it comes from. So even for objects and things, este vestido es de C-E-A. I think it is anyway. Okay, then profession. Profession is one of those that confuses people because sometimes people like to think, oh, ser is permanent and estar is temporary. No, not always. So I don't like to think of it that way. There are certain criteria when you use ser and certain criteria when you use estar, and it's not always permanent and temporary. Probably about 80% of the time it is, but not always. So don't let it confuse you. And profession is one of these things, because obviously our professions are not permanent. We can change our professions, but we always use ser for professions. So soy profesora, él es político, he's a politician, or ella es cantante, she is a singer. Any profession is ser, without exception. One of those where there is no exception. And possession. So when you're talking about something that is yours, or it's his, or it's mine, you would always use ser. So so far we've got colours, origin, profession, possession. Now the P and the R sort of go together. Personal relationships. Yeah, so again, it sort of goes with the possession a little bit, because if you're saying she is my friend, or he is my husband, or you are my niece, or they are my uncle and auntie, so they're personal relationships, and they would be ser. And again, this is sometimes something that confuses people. If you're talking about, oh, who is your best friend, or he is my boyfriend. I mean, these are things that obviously are not permanent. You know, your friends can change, and your boyfriend certainly can change. It's certainly my experience. So, you know, it's important it's the personal relationship that makes it ser, not because it's permanent. Okay, identity, that is permanent, I suppose, though you could change your name. If I was saying I am Vicki, soy Vicki, tú eres, whoever you are watching, you might, tú eres Sandra, or tú eres Michael, etc. Characteristic, nationality, again, you could think that's permanent, because it doesn't matter where you live at the moment. your nationality, though you can change your nationality. Really, the more you think into these, it's not permanent things at all. So let's forget the permanent stuff. So nationality is always ser. Soy inglesa. Soy británica. Soy española. Whichever one you are, it is ser for nationality. Characteristics. So this is a tricky one because when I say characteristics, I mean intrinsic characteristics. Now, sometimes you'll see that quite a lot in my books. And sometimes people will say to me, what is an intrinsic characteristic? Well, basically, an intrinsic characteristic is something that's part of you. Not like the way you look today. Like, so if you're tall, if you're short, if you're blonde, if you're dark, naturally. So, if you're saying, oh, I'm blonde at the moment or I'm dark at the moment, that would be estar. But somebody's intrinsic characteristic, and not only physical appearance, but their personality, the type of person you are. Are you an extrovert, an introvert? Are you active? Are you, personality traits, the sort of person you are, and the way you look. And not only people, but things also. So if something is big, that's an intrinsic characteristic, as is if it's small. So not only people, but things as well. And then the last time that we used there, which again, it sort of throws out this conception that ser is permanent, is time, because time changes. Yeah, if you're saying it's 3 o'clock, you say son las tres. If you're saying what day is it? Que dia es? Or it won't. Hoy es. What day is it? Martes. Hoy es martes. Well, it won't. Today won't always be Tuesday. But then today will, because tomorrow is another day. So, you could drive yourself mad sort of thinking about it. But it's enough to think, not permanent or temporary. These are the times you use ser, whether permanent or not. Okay? So, there's our ser, copring. So, of course, you can rewind and watch the video again if there's anything you've forgotten. Okay, and in my books, there are so many exercises on ser and estar. As I say, in every level, there's one practice of ser and estar in the level 1. Well, I say one, there's more than one, but only in the present tense, because the level 1 is all about the present tense. When you go into level 2, 3, and 4, there's a practice of every new tense that you learn. So there's a lot of different practices of ser and estar. And I think it's in level 4, but it could possibly be in level 3. There's a massive exercise on ser and estar with 100 sentences to translate, where you have to decide if it's ser or estar. I always used to say to my students, well, if you manage to get every one of those 100 right, you never have to do another exercise again as far as ser and estar is concerned. But I mean, it's quite difficult to get all of those right. But you can't practice ser and estar enough, because it's just one of those things that will always be an issue. Okay, let's look at estar. So for estar, flomets, that's the mnemonic I sort of put together. And with estar is feelings for the F. That's quite straightforward. Feelings, are you tired, happy, the way you feel? Any way that you feel. That is not the sort of person you are, it's the way you're feeling. That is estar. Location, I've put the L and the O together there so that I could actually make a word. So the lo is location. This again, just throws out the window this permanent and temporary idea of ser and estar. Because location, it doesn't matter if it's I am in Spain, which obviously is temporary, estoy en España, because I could go out of Spain and be somewhere else. But it's not only for things like that. It's like if you say Madrid is in Spain, Madrid está en España. It's still está because it's location. It doesn't matter if it'll always be in Spain or not. And that quite often causes problems for my students. They say, oh, well, it'll always be in Spain. Well, it's not because it's permanent or temporary. It's because it's location. Okay, moods. So that goes along with the feelings. Moods, feelings, the way you feel, the mood you're in, if you're angry, if you're happy, if you're sad. It will always be estar. Marital status, that surprises a lot of people because they think, oh, if you're married, why is it temporary? But it's not temporary. It's just being married. I think I read somewhere once, which I thought was a good reason. If you're married, or divorced or separated, etc. It's not, you weren't born that way. You can sometimes think of Sarah as the way you were born, things that were born inside you. Although you're not tall when you're born, maybe, but it's already there, the potential to be tall, etc. And that's what intrinsic means, it's inside. Whereas marital status is something that you either do or you don't do, but it's not part of you intrinsically to be married. You're not born married. So that's why. It worked for me, that might not work for you, I don't know. I mean, we all have our ways of sort of remembering things, and that made sense to me, but I apologise if it doesn't make sense to you. Finding your own way of remembering things is important. Emotions. So again, that goes with the feelings, moods, emotions. And also with this feelings, moods and emotions comes illness. So if you're saying you're ill, you have a cold or you're with a fever or whatever, these would all be estar because these are states, the way you feel. Okay, and any other temporary state. So a temporary state, because this is not only for people, remember, this is for objects too. So a temporary state for an object would be if it's clean or dirty, or if it's open or closed, or like for a chair, it'd be if it's free or occupied. These are what are called temporary states. They're not intrinsic characteristics, of something. So a door can be open or closed, that's a temporary state. But if the door is made of wood, or the door is big, or the door is small, that is ser, an intrinsic characteristic. But if it's open or closed, it is a temporary state. I hope that makes sense. I know it's difficult. It's a little bit philosophical, isn't it? So that's why it will always cause a little bit of a problem for us. So that's estar. Now, another way, of course, perhaps an easier way, remember, is if you look at the difference there's a lot more times that we use ser. So sometimes I say to people, look, just remember the estar ones, and if it doesn't fit into any of those characteristics, it must be ser. So you could just know that estar is for feelings, location, moods, marital status, emotion and temporary states. Everything else is ser. Maybe that's a way that you could remember it. But as with everything, the easiest way to remember is repetition, repetition, repetition. Practice, practice, practice. If you do have my books, those exercises that I mentioned, there's lots of conversation practices with Sarah and Estar, etc. Do them over and over again. I mean, really, I would always advise people not to write into the books, to write in the books, to do the exercises on a separate pad. And then you can go back and do them again. leave them a week, go back, do them again. So you might find that the first time you do it, you get a couple wrong, and then you should really keep doing it until you get them all right, and then you've arrived. And then, even then, maybe a month later, do them again and see if you still get them right. I mean, I can't stress that enough, that the only way to learn is repetition, especially if you're not in a situation living somewhere where you're practicing Spanish every day. Now, you know, for me as a teacher, I learned a lot that way. The more you explain it, if you know someone who's trying to learn Spanish, try and explain things to them. If you know a bit more than them about something, trying to explain something to somebody definitely makes it clearer in your mind too. So that's a recommendation. I mean, obviously, it depends on your level and how confident you would feel explaining something to somebody, but you can always use the books. The answers are in the back, so you know that you're going to be giving them the right answers. Okay, so that's it. So ser and estar. So it's the eternal problem, but anyway, just keep practicing. Thank you for watching. As usual, please give me a thumbs up if you found the video useful. If there's anything you would like me to cover in a video, please let me know. I'd be happy to do a video to explain something that you find difficult. If you haven't already subscribed, please, and you feel like it, please subscribe. You know, I've got 1,350 subscribers now, so I'm very, very happy with that. Thank you so much to everybody who has subscribed. Don't forget the notification bell, because then you get notifications of new videos. Vale, te veo en el próximo video. Muchas gracias por mirar y que tu Dios vaya contigo. Muchas gracias. Hasta luego.